Your neighbor is an unintentional witness to a side of your life that remains hidden from you. They are the ones who know exactly what time the barking begins and how long it persists. They understand which days are the most difficult because they have spent hours listening to the sounds vibrating through the shared walls of your home, sounds you are never there to witness. When you walk back through your front door, your dog likely appears completely normal. They may seem calm or perhaps a little excited, acting as though nothing significant occurred while you were away. To them, the moment you return, the previous hours effectively vanish. However, you have likely seen the physical evidence: a sofa cushion displaced on the floor, a ruffled corner of the rug, or a very specific heavy silence from a dog who knows the atmosphere has changed. You might have assumed these were signs of boredom or mischief, but behavioral researchers have been utilizing hidden cameras for decades to uncover a much more revealing truth about animal psychology. Your dog isn't just missing you. A specific neurological crisis is occurring that begins long before you even close the door. In 2010, researchers at the University of Milan installed cameras in the homes of 23 dogs to observe their behavior in total isolation. They found that vocalization, barking, whining, and howling began at an average of just 3 minutes and 15 seconds after the owner's departure. Destructive behavior followed within 7 minutes. It takes less than 10 minutes for a dog's shoes to become a target for their distress. But the more compelling finding was what happened after that initial frantic phase. Eventually, the barking and scratching subside, and an owner returning to a quiet house would assume the dog had settled. The cameras proved otherwise. As the noise decreased, the dog's panting increased, and their heart rates stayed dangerously elevated. The dog had merely shifted from an active expression of distress to a passive one. The physiological activation never stopped. Furthermore, researchers found that this distress follows a cyclical pattern rather than a clean decline. Every 23 to 28 minutes, there is a new spike of movement or vocalization followed by a quieter period. This silence isn't calm. It is a cycle of exhaustion. When we compare this to dogs without separation issues, the difference is stark. Without separation issues, the difference is stark. Swedish researchers at the University of Agricultural Sciences observed a control group for up to 4 hours and found they spent 97% of their time in passive behavior, lying down, resting, or occasionally drinking water. They were not distressed or bored. They were simply waiting. The difference between these two groups isn't about breed, age, or genetics. It is about what the dog has been taught to expect. This conditioning starts before you leave the house. In the 1980s, behaviorist Borchel and Voigt documented that dogs with separation anxiety show measurable stress responses while their owner is still present. Through simple conditioning, dogs learn to backchain your entire departure routine. Checking your phone, putting on your shoes, or glancing at the time all become signals. By the time you reach for the door, some dogs are already panting, pacing, or following you from room to room, hoping that this time you might stay. This challenges the common advice of desensitizing dogs to departure cues, like picking up keys randomly. A 2014 study in Barcelona found that for some dogs, making departures unpredictable actually increases fear, because the core issue is the uncertainty of what happens after you go. The Royal Veterinary College's Generation Pup study tracked 145 dogs and found that long, emotional goodbyes did not cause separation problems. What actually mattered was the nature of the return. Owners who came home to find damage and responded with visible frustration or raised voices were 6 times more likely to have dogs with separation-related behaviors. A dog cannot connect your current anger to an object destroyed hours ago. They simply connect your frustration to your arrival. Gradually, your homecoming becomes something for them to brace for, creating a loop of anticipatory stress where the dog is anxious about you leaving and anxious about you coming back. The same study found that punishment, even in the form of deliberately ignoring the dog, significantly increased the probability of these problems developing. Another common piece of advice: getting a second dog has almost no support in the research. A 2021 study found that male dogs in multi-dog households actually vocalized more when left alone, because the distress is about the specific absence of a specific person, not a general lack of company. This phenomenon is often missed because dogs can be experts at hiding it. You might come home to an intact house and a dog that looks fine, but this can actually be a sign of learned helplessness. Martin Seligman's foundational research at the University of Pennsylvania showed that when animals are exposed to unavoidable stress, they eventually stop trying to escape and simply lie down. In 2016, Seligman revised this theory to suggest that passivity is the brain's default under inescapable stress, and we must actively build a dog's belief that their behavior can change their situation. A dog that goes quiet hasn't necessarily accepted the situation. They may have simply stopped believing their actions matter. A 2019 study even found that severely anxious dogs sometimes have lower long-term cortisol in their hair than calmer dogs, not because they are less stressed, but because their stress systems have essentially burned out from chronic overactivation. Furthermore, research from Linköping University in 2019 showed that cortisol levels in owners and dogs are synchronized, and the owner's cortisol level is what predicts the dog's level. This means a dog with an anxious owner starts their period of isolation from a stress deficit rather than a neutral baseline. The 8 hours you are gone are happening on top of the stress accumulated during the other 16 hours you spend together. While the market is flooded with pheromone diffusers, supplements, and anxiety wraps, most owners find the results modest at best because these tools only target the time you are gone. The most consistent evidence for improvement comes from graduated exposure, building a history of return so incrementally that the dog's nervous system never has a chance to spike. This process feels absurdly slow, often starting with just seconds spent outside the door, but it provides the repetitions needed to update the dog's internal prediction system. Once a dog can tolerate roughly 40 minutes of absence, they often progress to 4 or 8 hours relatively quickly. In severe cases, medication combined with behavior modification has shown a 73% improvement rate by shifting the dog's cognitive bias toward a more neutral interpretation of the world. The cameras show that these dogs aren't badly trained. They are simply waiting for their nervous systems to learn that the door closing and the door opening are the same safe event. If this insight into your dog's secret life has changed the way you view your time away from home, please subscribe and share your experience in the comments. Does your dog show signs of stress before you've even picked up your keys? A heartfelt thank you to everyone for the incredible support on my first video. I created this channel with so much love, and I never expected such a profound response. This is just the beginning, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one where we will dive into a video specifically for cat lovers.